years, regardless of what has been written about me, whatever is said about me, I knew my mission. And we had an agreement. We're here to win.
At the time as well, hey, I think I'm dealing with some depression, and he wanted me to see the brighter side of things. No, y'all are about to go on tour. Y'all got Barbie dolls. What are you talking about? Y'all just signed a crazy big deal with Columbia. I could see myself in a pit trying to get out, just feeling so heavy that when I would make one step, the weight would just pull me back down.
Welcome back to StarHush, where the tea never stops spilling. And trust me, today's cup, it's all about the untold truth behind Michelle Williams and Destiny's Child. And it's not as glamorous as people think. Now, being part of Destiny's Child might sound like a dream come true, right? Hit records, sold out arenas, legendary red carpet moments, the whole package. But for Michelle, that dream had a darker side that fans are finally starting to talk about. While Beyoncé was being crowned the queen of the group and Kelly Rowland was getting her own shine, Michelle was often left out in the cold. From the jump, she was made to feel like the odd one out. Sources say group management constantly reminded her how lucky she was to even be there, like she was some backup dancer who slipped into the spotlight by accident. Imagine being told over and over, there are thousands of girls who would kill for your spot. That's the kind of pressure she had to deal with. And the fans, they weren't always kind either. Every time Michelle hit the stage, folks were quick to point out her smallest misstep while giving the others a pass. She couldn't breathe wrong without someone criticizing her voice, her moves, or her energy. Meanwhile, the spotlight was glued to Bey and Kelly, while Michelle got stuck in the shadows, no matter how hard she worked. So yeah, Destiny's Child gave her fame, but it also came with emotional weight most people never saw.
About your insecurities about your singing voice, you even stated that you knew you weren't the vocal favorite of Destiny's Child. Is that something that, what made you second guess?
You know what, it's not that I was second guessing, I'm just aware. You know, some people are like, oh my gosh, it's stuck. They said it stuck with her. No, it didn't stick with me. You know, just sometimes you're aware that you're not everybody's favorite.
And the drama didn't stop when Destiny's Child broke up. Not even close. Michelle Williams is still getting dragged by fans, and now she's finally speaking up. She's been pulling back the curtain on how she was constantly pushed to the side just so Beyoncé and Kelly could be front and center. And let's be real, it's been a long time coming. But before we get into all that shade, let's rewind for a sec. Who is Michelle Williams really? Because most people only know her as the third girl in Destiny's Child. But that's not the whole story. Not even close. Michelle had already built a solid musical foundation long before she stepped into that iconic trio. She started singing at just 7 years old, performing in church choirs and soaking up the gospel sound like a sponge. That early training shaped her voice into something powerful, emotional, and rich with soul. And when you really listen to Destiny's Child's music, you can still hear those gospel roots coming through in Michelle's voice. Her tone, her delivery, all of it carried that deep spiritual edge that set her apart. But funny enough, Michelle didn't even plan to pursue music full-time at first. She enrolled in college at Louisiana State University and was studying criminal justice. That's right, she was on track for a whole different career. But 2 years into her studies, something shifted. She realized her heart was in music, so she took a leap of faith and chased her passion instead. She started singing backup in clubs, grinding hard behind the scenes, and that's when everything changed. She landed a gig singing backup for R&B star Monica. That role became her golden ticket because while working with Monica, she crossed paths with Destiny's Child. And boom, her life flipped overnight. At that time, Destiny's Child was in chaos behind the scenes. The group had originally launched with Beyoncé Knowles, Kelly Rowland, LaToya Luckett, and Latavia Robertson. Fans had grown up watching these four rise to fame, so when tension started boiling over, it rocked the fandom hard. The drama was intense. LaToya and Latavia wanted to part ways with the group's manager, Matthew Knowles. Yes, Beyoncé's own father. They felt like he wasn't managing the group fairly and wanted someone new to represent all of them equally. That disagreement blew everything up, and just as things hit a breaking point, Michelle was brought into the mix as a replacement. She didn't walk into a peaceful situation. she walked into a storm. Destiny's Child was already under fire from fans for switching members, and Michelle instantly became the target for everything from vocal critiques to shady comparisons. People weren't trying to hear her talent, they just saw her as the new girl who replaced two beloved originals. And no matter how much she gave, no matter how hard she worked, people always treated her like she didn't belong. But what fans didn't realize was that Michelle wasn't just lucky to be there, she earned her spot. So here's where things get even messier. Because the reason behind Destiny's Child's big shakeup, it wasn't just creative differences, it was about money and favoritism. The tea is that Matthew Knowles, the group's manager and Beyoncé's dad, was allegedly pocketing way more than his fair share of the profits. And that's not even the worst part. Word on the street was he was giving Beyoncé and Kelly all the spotlight and way more opportunities, while pushing the other girls into the background. That favoritism was a ticking time bomb, and eventually it exploded. LaToya and Latavia felt sidelined and underpaid, so they made a bold move. They cut ties with Matthew and left the group altogether. And just like that, the original Destiny's Child lineup was torn apart. So now the big question was, who's replacing them? What's the new vibe? And how would fans react? Well, believe it or not, Michelle Williams had already crossed paths with Beyoncé and Kelly before any of the drama went down. Back in late 1999, they actually bumped into each other at an Atlanta hotel lobby. Nothing major happened, just a quick hello, but it planted a seed. Fast forward just a few months, and Beyoncé started asking around for a new vocalist, someone who could sing with power and precision. And guess who was recommended? Michelle. That moment changed everything. After the drama blew up and Destiny's Child officially announced a new lineup, they brought in two fresh faces, Michelle Williams and Farrah Franklin. These two were stepping into a spotlight already burning hot with tension and fan loyalty to the OG members. But let's be real, only one of them truly stuck around. Farrah Franklin's time in Destiny's Child was blink and you missed it short. She was barely in the group for 5 months before she completely disappeared from promo events and the public eye altogether. No farewell tour, no announcement, just poof, gone. That left Beyoncé, Kelly, and Michelle as the new and final trio. But for Michelle, the pressure was real. She was stepping in as the new girl right in the middle of all the chaos. Fans didn't know her. She didn't have that same pop polish from years under Matthew Knowles' intense boot camp like Beyoncé and Kelly did. And let's not forget, Michelle was still brand new to the industry. She didn't walk into a warm welcome. People weren't rushing to celebrate her. They were skeptical. They were judgmental. And in a group already built on tight choreography, flawless harmonies, and superstar energy, Michelle had to find her place and fight for respect. From fans, from the media, and maybe even from the inside. But despite all the shade and the whispers, she didn't back down. She kept showing up.
I got into Destiny's Child. It was a moving train. So I was learning as I was going, right? I didn't have a lot of the media training and the development that Beyoncé and Kelly had. I came in that group a team player. I came in that group, what do y'all need me to do? Because I knew of these girls who had a dream and an aspect of that didn't work out. How can I come in and help us win? So I always feel like regardless, throughout the years, regardless of what has been written about me, whatever is said about me, I knew my mission and we had an agreement. We're here to win.
Let's not forget, when Michelle first stepped into Destiny's Child, the group already had a rock-solid fan base. The OG fans were still hurting from losing LaToya and Latavia, and most of them weren't trying to see anyone new come in and take their place. But even with all the noise, Michelle didn't let that break her spirit. She knew she had to prove herself, and that's exactly what she set out to do. She kept her head down and locked in on the work. Michelle built a solid bond with both Beyoncé and Kelly, not just as group mates, but as real sisters in music. There was no ego, no drama. She showed up when she was supposed to, laid her vocals exactly how they asked, and always respected the team's vision. She understood the assignment and did it with grace. Then came their game-changing hit, Independent Women Part 1. And boom, that track was a straight-up smash. It dropped as part of the Charlie's Angels soundtrack. And y'all, it changed the narrative. People stopped side-eyeing Michelle and started realizing, okay, this girl is really holding her own. The success of Independent Women locked Destiny's Child in as a legit trio, no questions asked. They weren't just surviving the shakeup, they were dominating. That energy pushed them straight into their next big chapter, the Survivor album. Now listen, if you thought Destiny's Child was already big, Survivor made them global icons. That album hit #1 on the Billboard charts with ease. We're talking 10 million copies sold worldwide, and the girls were everywhere. Award shows, interviews, magazine covers, sold out concerts. They were running the whole game. And right in the middle of all that success, Michelle Williams. She wasn't in the background anymore, not even close. This is where her nickname started bubbling up. The Queen of Song Bridges. Every time the beat slowed down and the bridge hit, it was Michelle's voice bringing the emotion and making the track hit deeper. Whether it was Survivor, Emotion, or Bootylicious, Michelle held it down every single time. The spotlight was finally warming up for her, and fans started paying attention. The critics couldn't deny her anymore. That church-grown voice, those harmonies, the way she smoothed out transitions. Michelle was the glue that made those hits come alive. She went from the girl nobody believed in to the woman whose voice carried the soul of the group.
Destiny's Child stand, but you will not talk bad about Michelle and say that they can have a tour without her. You cannot have a Destiny's Child tour without Michelle. Can you do it without LaToya or Latavia? Yeah, like absolutely. But Michelle, there's absolutely no way that can happen. And Michelle Williams has never met a bridge that she can't cross, okay? That girl was the bridge maker and creator for that. Like, there are so many songs that she sung the bridge on that brought it home. Like,
But let's keep it real. The spotlight ain't always kind. And for Michelle, it came with a whole lot of shadows. Standing next to Beyoncé and Kelly, she was often treated like the invisible one in the crew. No matter how hard she worked, the public always saw her as the third wheel, like she didn't belong on the same stage. Beyoncé? She was the undeniable superstar, the voice, the moves, the look, the full package. And Kelly? She was the fashion icon, the one with the glow-up energy, the soft beauty, and a voice that demanded attention. Girls looked up to her, and guys were trying to shoot their shot. She had that kind of presence. So when Michelle stepped up next to them, the world just didn't know how to place her. Some folks acted like she didn't match the look or the vibe of the group, whatever that means. It was like people made up their minds before she even opened her mouth. Critics started picking apart everything, saying her vocals weren't as strong, her dancing was stiff, or that she was always a step behind. They compared instead of appreciating what she brought to the table.
Where you at, 106?
When I fell on live TV, it took me years to be able to watch that because everybody makes such a big deal about it. And I was like, let me rest when I'm over it.
Yeah.
Okay, it took me a while to get over it.
Why do you think it took you a while
Because people acted like I was the only human on the planet
to fall?
to fall.
Well, so when Jennifer Lawrence falls on the red carpet, she's more relatable now.
Again, I can laugh at it now. You know, I'm reminded of it probably. It used to be every week that somebody would like do a meme or something.
Oh, come on.
Now let's talk facts. Beyoncé and Kelly, they had been training like pros since they were little kids. Vocal lessons, choreography, media training, they were molded for the spotlight from day one. Meanwhile, Michelle walked into the fame whirlwind unexpectedly, landing straight in a group that was already climbing the charts with platinum hits. So when the dance routines hit hard and fast, Michelle did her best to keep up, but the difference showed, especially to fans who were already on high alert. Her moves weren't always sharp, and sometimes she looked just a little too careful on stage, like she was second-guessing herself in real time. But here's what's wild. Every time she made a small misstep, people would blow it up like it was the end of the world. Meanwhile, Beyoncé could trip and it would be called choreography. The double standard was unreal. Michelle wasn't used to that level of spotlight, that kind of non-stop pressure. It wasn't just about hitting her marks, it was about surviving the comparison game, and fans weren't cutting her any slack.
To transform myself, it was hard. Wearing the different types of clothes, and I showed a little bit of cleavage.
She was fine. It took her a while, but she got it.
Being in Destiny's Child was both a blessing and a box for Michelle. Sure, it gave her a platform, but it also put her in a corner. Most of the time, she was singing the bridges, tossing in a few ad-libs, or holding it down in the background. And because of that, people started assuming she only got those parts because she wasn't on the same level as Beyoncé or Kelly, like she wasn't built for the main spotlight. To make it worse, a lot of fans never really forgave the group for switching up the original lineup. When Latavia and LaToya were replaced, folks were mad. And instead of pointing fingers at management or industry politics, they took it out on Michelle, the one person who had absolutely nothing to do with any of it. She just showed up to do her job and still caught all the heat. Behind the scenes, the pressure started weighing heavy. Michelle could feel the criticism getting to her. She was struggling. And when she finally opened up to Matthew Knowles, telling him that she might be dealing with depression and needed a break, he brushed it off, just like that. He told her she had nothing to be sad about. The group was hot, the money was rolling in, and brands were lining up. But for Michelle, that wasn't the point. She didn't feel seen. Not by the public, and clearly not by management either. What most people don't even realize is that Michelle was the first Destiny's Child member to step out solo. Not Beyoncé, not Kelly, Michelle. And what did she do? She leaned into what she knew, gospel. And baby, she owned it. Her solo career took her in a completely different direction, but it finally gave her a space where she could stand out and be celebrated for who she truly was. Her fourth studio album, Journey to Freedom, brought her back into the spotlight, and she came back strong. It debuted at number 29 on the Billboard 200, and that hit single Say Yes with Beyoncé and Kelly, still one of her most iconic records. But even now, after all that work and growth, people still don't give Michelle the same love they show Beyoncé and Kelly. And that's not shade, it's just the truth. The recognition she deserves still hasn't caught up with the effort she's put in. Even now, Michelle still has to deal with trolls making jokes at her expense. Whole pages online are dedicated to mocking her and comparing her success to Beyoncé and Kelly, like that's ever been a fair fight. But here's the twist. Folks are finally starting to speak up for her, and it's about time people gave Michelle the credit she deserves. Fans are realizing the truth and showing love like never before. One person said, "I don't think Michelle Williams got the grace and props she deserved for stepping into Destiny's Child years after it all began. She learned what Beyoncé and Kelly had been training on since they were kids, and still carved out her own lane. And honestly, that couldn't be more real." Michelle came in when the group had already built its name. She had a crazy learning curve, 2 full albums to memorize, harmonies to master, choreography to nail, and chemistry to build with 2 performers who were already a tight unit. And she did it all under public scrutiny. People forget how tough that must have been. Another fan wrote, "The Bridge Queen deserves her roses." And yes, she really does. It was never fair how hard the media and fans were on Michelle. While Bey and Kelly were seen as the stars, Michelle was often treated like the extra. But in reality, she brought her own flavor, her own story, and her own spirit to Destiny's Child. And she did it with so much grace, even when people were trying to tear her down. She didn't just survive in that group. She thrived, even if folks didn't always see it. Her vocals gave the songs soul, and her strength gave the group balance. So the question now is, do you think Beyoncé and Kelly truly stood out more, or has Michelle been underrated all along? Drop your thoughts in the comments, let's talk about it. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe for all the latest updates, and hit that bell so you don't miss a single drop. I'll catch you next time, my stars and hushers. And you already know, the tea never stops brewing.